Hey guys, here, Brian Stevens with Mortgage Shots and the National Real Estate Post, which, by the way, if you've never seen my show, go to mortgageshots.com where you will see my daily videos that are going to discuss everything that's taking place in the mortgage and real estate markets with hopefully a little levity, some sales nourishment, and what we can do about it. Today, we're going to be talking about the state of the market and what to expect. Why should we buy right now? Best and worst markets, interest rates, and so much more. But the most important thing that we do over here at Mortgage Shots, and this is for realtors and mortgage lenders, is we want to make sure that we are giving you editorialized and we're going to explain to you how we editorialize why we come up with our conclusions and why we deduce what you should be doing with your business. In short, these stories and where the market is, it gives us a chance to read the tea leaves of the direction things are going, and that should give you actionable items for your personal business. So we're going to have a bunch of good stuff today. And as we work on this, we'll start to clean it up a little bit as we have completely changed how we're doing the National Real Estate Post going forward, and we are going to stick with this. So hang with me, guys. Now, of course, if you have any questions, put it in the comments down below. I would love to hear from everybody here. And of course, sharing this on your social sites, hitting the like and subscribe buttons would be absolutely fantastic. So let's jump right in. There's a number of different things that I want to start with. The first one is this. There's a misconception. There's a narrative going on out there that Wall Street is buying up America. Now, 87% or 14.5 million homes are owned by 1 to 5 property landlords. In short, 87% of the properties that are out there right now that are investment properties are owned by your mom and pop investors. They're not owned by corporate America. So what should this tell us? Well, it's really quite simple. What this should tell us is that we should be looking at the investment market and not be worried about the BlackRocks of the world out there, the State Streets of the world out there. They're not the big bad boogeymen that you think they are. In fact, I would argue the point that I think having investors is probably a great place for your business to be. I mean, just look around. How many people do you know who should buy a house right now? In fact, we're going to be talking about this. I think that investors are the most underutilized component of the market that we have. Now, why do I say that? Well, because not everyone's working with them. Investors have deep pockets, and investors don't necessarily need to buy in a geographical area that they expect to buy their houses in. In short, I live in a high-cost area in Northern California. So for me to buy an investment home, it's going to cost me $700,000, $800,000. Well, how much do I have to get in rent to pencil? However, if I were to take my thought processing and move it to a different state or a low-cost area, in some of the more aggressive markets for buyers to participate in, then maybe I could find myself in a positive cash flow situation without having to come up with the $200,000 to $300,000 down payment that I would have to get for an investment property in California. In short, a Californian could be buying somewhere in the Midwest. We're going to be talking about the markets that we should be buying and not be buying in. But here's the big thing that I really want to explain to you guys here, and I think this is what's so important about looking at investors. One, investors are fantastic for you to work with. They are 87% of all investors you have access to. The big corporate investors, of course, are not going to be part of what you're doing, but 87% of investors are in the ballpark. And of course, I also believe that we could be manufacturing investors. In other words, how many people in your past client database right now could and should buy a house if they only knew that the possibility was on the table? If I look at my database, they're going to say, well, I can't afford an $800,000 investment home. Well, hold on a second here. Let's go buy in Indianapolis. Let's go buy in Buffalo. Let's go buy in Lexington. I mean, there's a ton of places we can buy in. You could double or triple your real estate holdings, and you could do so with a HELOC, even if you're cash poor, but you're equity rich. The other component of this slide that I think is so important is that corporate investors are actually backing off right now. Now, one of the things that I want to talk to you about today is what direction the market is going and what you can do about it in order to succeed in these markets. The fact that corporate investors only represent approximately 13% of the investment market for single-family residence homes in the United States should tell you something. They don't see this market going forward as lucrative as they should, or perhaps they know something that we don't. So is this telling us that maybe we're going to see a little, a slide or a correction, as we like to say, on the horizons? It certainly could be the case, but would a correction necessarily be a bad thing? And again, we're going to talk more about this. A correction or prices going down, frankly, from a lender or a real estate agent standpoint, is just basically a sale. And who in the hell doesn't like a sale? All right, the second slide I want to show you here, and again, there's a disconnect between productivity of a typical worker's compensation between 1948 and 2014. Now, check this slide out. This is really interesting. If we look at the dark blue one, that is the productivity. So if we go back to 1940 to today, our productivity has gone up 238.7%. It's an enormous number. Does that mean people are working harder? Well, typically, I think, when we look at manufacturing and we look at the fact that we have automated so many things here, that type of productivity is not terribly surprising. But look at our hourly compensation. Our hourly compensation, basically since 1978 to today, has dropped off while productivity has gone through the roof. I think a lot of that has to do with automation. But here's my real simple point on this. I'm not really afraid of this slide. The only reason I brought this up is I hear a lot of real estate agents and lenders and even appraisers, and for good reason, especially in difficult markets right now, to get in the doldrums and get upset about, well, I'm working too damn hard and not getting enough money for what I'm doing. Well, I think the rest of the working class across the United States would say, bravo, join the damn club. Congratulations, you finally recognize what we've always known. So the fact that you might have to work harder now than you have in the past in order to get the compensation or the income that you think you deserve should not be something to shun, something to complain about. It shouldn't be something to rejoice in, but it's just a matter of fact of where we are. And really, we all understand this. There are people who are either going to look at this type of adversity and they're going to grow from it, or there's people who are simply going to slide from it. Here's a real interesting number for you. There is a Keller Williams office in Northern California. They've got 1,126 real estate agents. They got 1,126 real estate agents. They've got 126 agents, or about 10%, who are doing any business. So that tells me we have about 10% of the people who are looking at graphs like this and saying, okay, I have to work harder, I have to work smarter. Perhaps, like the other industries, I have to automate a little bit more. The difference or the disparity between productivity and hourly compensation doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we're working harder. It has everything to do with the fact that we have found a way to automate industries where we haven't really embraced it in real estate and lending, have we? Go look at Amazon right now. How many workers do they have in their factories versus how many robots? Go look at any assembly line for any product that you consume. How many people are working those assembly lines versus back in 1940? Now look at real estate and lending. We're doing things by and large very similarly to what we've done in the past. Now, of course, in lending, we've got everything is automated. We automate our VOEs, our VORs, we automate our credit, we automate, even our appraisals right now are automated. We automate our underwriting, we can automate all of that. But what about the marketing component? For the astute loan officer, in other words, we've got about 75,000 producing loan officers in the United States right now. And most of them are dialing for dollars. And there is nothing wrong with that, by the way. I dial for dollars all the time. But, I think the important part is what we haven't done is we haven't engaged in the type of automation that's going to give us the type of productivity that we see in other industries. In fact, almost every other industry. What am I talking about here, guys? And again, this was intended to show you the direction the market is going, but I think the bigger play with this slide is we're looking at automation over here. And what this tells me is we have to look at technology as an enhancement tool for us versus a replacement tool. So here's how you get your productivity up. If you can shoot a video, and if you were to send that video out where people get to see you, they get to know, like, and trust you, they can see your mannerisms, they can hear the inflection in your voice, they get to know absolutely so much more about you than they get from a text or an email, even a phone call in a lot of ways because they can't see you. Other than meeting face to face, a video is going to be one of your best friends here. Now, I can shoot a video that takes me 10 minutes and I can send that to 10,000 people, and 10,000 people can watch it. That's automation working for me. I'm taking one conversation, I'm canning it, I'm replicating that message, and then I'm sending it out to everybody. And then those who want to respond to it can certainly respond. I need to make it personal. I need to make it on point. I need to make it topical, right? I need to make it sticky. I need to make it engageable. I need to make it about something that my viewing audience is going to want to watch. I don't need to make it about me. But if I can make these videos effectively, I can go ahead and replicate myself, and I can go ahead and start to see more productivity. And what that's going to do for somebody who's self-employed is that productivity is going to take that compensation line, that light blue line that you're looking at right now, and it's going to move it up, and your compensation is going to mirror that of your productivity. Because mind you, in this situation, what you're looking at with the slide right here, the productivity is what benefits the corporation. The hourly compensation is what benefits the individual. Now, if you are the owner of your own business, your productivity and your income lines are going to be congruent. They're going to run side by side and your income will increase. So again, don't look at these markets and don't look at this slide as something that's negative. Look at this slide as a means for you to go ahead and pivot your business. Now, as far as the direction the market is going, everybody, there's a million different ways we can skin this cat, and we're going to skin it a couple more ways. But I thought this one was fairly interesting here. It's the price of gold. Now, when gold goes up, what does that mean? It means investors are scared of the stock market. And right now, Jerome Powell of the Federal Reserve, a Federal Reserve Board Chief, is showing signs of concern about the direction the stock market is going. Again, we're going to talk about that in a second. So people are pulling money out of bonds, people are pulling money out of the stock market, and they're putting it in something secure like gold. Now, look what gold has done. As gold goes up, that means there is definitely turbulent water on the horizons. Look at what gold has done, and this goes back here to 1979. We saw the big spike over here in 2010, 11, okay? Now, we saw that because we were coming off the heels of the Great Recession, so that's why we see this big spike go up here. This is people saying, oh crap, the market is unsteady. I need something that's stable. This right here that we're looking at is the Great Recession. Now, look what's taking place with gold over here. This is going to take us right around to COVID, and then post-COVID, people are buying gold and it is going up in droves because they're reading the same tea leaves that I'm looking at right now, and we're seeing a market that is not necessarily sustainable in its current form. We don't see any logical solutions that are necessarily on the horizon as a macro approach to things. Me and you as loan officers and real estate agents, we are approaching things on a micro level. And on a micro level, we're certainly going to find the solutions if we are willing to go out there and work hard enough. Again, I go back to that Keller Williams offices, 1,126 agents, 126 agents doing any business. In short, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Okay, so let's look at this in a little bit more detail over here, can we? All right, so let's look at the top and the worst markets out there. Now, these are the top markets where the these are the top or the hottest markets right here where the sellers have the most power. Okay, and I'll explain to you why I'm bringing this up. Okay, Rochester, New York, number one. Buffalo, Hartford, Syracuse, Albany, Charleston. I'm not even going to take a shot at this one in New York. If we go to this point for these top 7 or 8, these are not what you would exactly call vacation destination cities, are they? I'm not knocking them if you live there. I'm just saying these aren't places that you're necessarily going to pin on the old Rand McNally map and say, honey, let's go over here to Rochester. I'm dying to go to Buffalo. Hartford sounds fantastic to me. I mean, I'm making light of this, but see, these are some of the most depressed economies and most complicated or difficult cities to live in when it comes to weather and opportunity, crime rates, education, and air quality. And so, of course, there's going to be better opportunity over here, okay? Oh, and by the way, the reason I'm saying this is because the prices in these cities are extremely, extremely low. And so people who live in the more expensive cities, the higher cost areas out there, are buying in some of these cheaper areas because they're the only areas that they can go ahead and afford. Does that make sense? It's really kind of the gentrification of Rochester, Buffalo, Hartford, Syracuse, Albany, Charleston, and again, somebody tell me what the next one is. Now, San Francisco is kind of an anomaly over here, isn't it? Well, how come this one is a market where sellers have the most power? Well, here's why. San Francisco has already taken the correction. That market was so completely and totally overblown that people left in droves. It was like the Jodes from the Grapes of Wrath, except instead of coming west, people were going east. So the city of San Francisco and the market of the Silicon Valley has already seen such a massive and major correction with a temporary rate slide that we're seeing right now. It's actually shifted some of the power back over to the sellers. So that makes sense over here. Okay, now once we go back there, again, we're back to Norwich, Birmingham, New York City, the same thing as San Francisco, San Jose, That's part of the Silicon Valley, the same thing as San Francisco. And then we go back to some of these depressed economies. But this is why these are some of the hot markets. Now, I'll tell you this is kind of the point that I'm getting at. If you live in a higher cost area, if you're in Charlotte, if you're in even Austin, though I know you guys are having a hard go of it right now, if you're up in Seattle, if you're in, New York, if you're in San Francisco, Los Angeles, I mean, you pick, there's a multitude of cities across the country, and you have a client base, and you find yourself not being able to drum up any business. Your phone's not ringing, your marketing's not working, your realtors aren't reaching back out to you. Everything is going ass over tea kettle for you. What you need to do is you need to call your database. Well, Brian, I've heard that one a million times over. Of course you have. But I don't call it your database. I call it your best opportunity. You need to call your best opportunity. That right there is an interchangeable term for database. You need to call your database. You need to call your best opportunity. Did you call your best opportunity today? Does your business look like it's down and out? Call your best opportunity. If you neglect your best opportunity, somebody else is going to discover your best opportunity. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call my best opportunity, and I have a couple of things that I want to tell them, but here's the first one that you should be talking to with your past client database is you should just tell your past client database, hey, listen, you're sitting on $200,000 in equity. How would you like to double or triple your real estate holdings and have a positive cash flow on day one? In short, if we look at the equity that you have in your house and we repurpose it to purchase a couple other houses in a different market, and I've talked about this a ton, would you be interested in doing it? In fact, let me tell you this, Jane Smith, I already have a realtor in Rochester, Buffalo, and Hartford. I've already called him up. I've already had him search out the most profitable properties for investment at the smartest of prices. And I have a property management company, and I have a handyman in place for you right now. I've got a prospectus that's outlined saying, if you buy these houses, here's how much it's going to cost you, here's what you should be able to get in rent, and here's how it's going to positive cash flow you. Even if you pull $150,000, $200,000 out of your house, and that's going to cost you $2,000, you're going to be net cash positive on the other properties by $500 or $1,000 on day one. Plus, as these markets change, and they will because all of real estate is cyclical, you're also going to be the benefactor of that equity. Is this something that you would be interested in doing? What market should I do this in, Brian? Well, here they are. The top markets for buyers. Find the top markets that are the most affordable. We start with Rochester, Buffalo, Hartford, Syracuse, Albany, Charleston, and then we could go down to Birmingham, not San Jose, Bridgeport, Springfield, Canton, Kingston, Providence, probably pretty expensive, Lansing, and Manchester. Not United, but Manchester and New Hampshire. These are the markets that we want to be looking at. Now, the markets where the buyers have the most control, again, these are good markets if you're living in. You could apply the same logic to this. But you're going to see, in this market, you're going to see tons of Texas, Florida, Texas. Wow. Texas and Florida right now, they are the canaries in the coal mine. They are letting us know the direction the rest of the market is going to go. Why do I say this? Because over the past 5 years, the Texas and Florida markets were completely oversold. Everybody was moving down to Texas. Texas was going to be the next Silicon Valley, right? Texas is hot and flat. Texas is hot and flat. And so what's happened is as the market has changed, excuse me, I'm just responding to this. And Florida's the same thing. And usually you find Arizona and Nevada on this list, and frankly, they're not too far behind. But what happens is the markets that are the first ones to go up in value, the fastest, the highest, the quickest, the superlatives, are the first ones to go down. But they're also, like I said, the precursors to let us know what's going to go on in the rest of the market. And of course, Texas and Florida are two of the largest economies in the United States. So the direction Texas and Florida goes is oftentimes the direction the rest of the country is going to go. Mind you, we saw this back in 2008. We're not going to see the big jumps, the big highs, or the big lows in a lot of the Midwestern states or smaller states that we have. But we are going to see some of the same tremors that we're finding right now in Florida and Texas. And of course, California is going to be the next one to go. Okay. Why should we buy a house? Now, you might have a hard time selling houses to folks right now, and I understand it. Some of these prices are, particularly for first-time home buyers, is just way too difficult. But here's the reason why, is real estate has always, without exception, always gone up. So we just saw this from Adam Hardy. He said, the assets making Americans rich. Why owners have a 43-to-1 edge over renters. And it comes down to a very, very simple point. And what is that point? Comparing 2019 to today's, renters have grown their wealth by 37%, while homeowners are 47% wealthier. Zooming into 2022 tells a very different story. Between then and now, renters' wealth has actually shrunk by 3.8%, down from $10,400, while the net worth of homeowners grew 8.5% to $392,000. Here's the reason why you should own a house. The average net worth of somebody who owns a house, $392,200 going up. The net worth of a renter, $10,000 and going down. This is always the fact. This is always the reason for the wealth gap. It comes down to this, and it's very, very simple. Since net worth considers the value of not only how much you earn, but the value of what you own, homes play an outsized role in computing the wealth of the typical American. You always win when you bet on ownership. Even if it's difficult to get into a house right now, particularly for young people, and I believe the average age for a first-time homebuyer right now is somewhere to the tune of about 38 years. A 38-year-old is a first-time homebuyer. You are already behind the 8 ball in growing and accumulating your wealth. The interesting part of this is we are going to see the largest migration of wealth in the history of the world, something we have never seen before. As the baby boomers start to pass, all that equity that they have, it's trillions of dollars, is going to find its way over to investors, over to family members, or over to new homeowners, i.e. your future clients. You need to get those clients off the fence right now and tell them to buy. People are waiting for rates to go down by an eighth or a quarter, and I see this whole lemming movement of ups and downs with purchases. Right now, refinances and purchases are going through the roof. Did you know that new home builders right now, they've seen over a 20% surge in the past month because rates have gone down by about 3/8% in the past month. People are looking at the difference, should I buy or should I not buy, based on rates changing by 0.5%. What they should be looking at is this graph right now. An average homeowner has almost $400,000 in wealth. The average renter has $10,000. Which one do you want to be? Who cares where the rate is at? Rates are always going to be fluid in our world, and we can always go ahead and change those rates. You want to get people off the fence right now, saying, well, it's too expensive. I don't think I want to buy. Rates are too high. I'm going to wait for a better opportunity. Well, I got news for you. When rates go down, property values are going to go up. Taxes on that property are going to go up, meaning it doesn't matter if you have a lower interest rate. You're going to pay more for the house, and you're going to pay more on those taxes, and you cannot refinance your taxes. You can refinance your mortgage. And oh, by the way, you want $400,000 or $10,000? These numbers are compelling, and by the way, they're absolutely irrefutable. You need to know these numbers. You have to be able to pull them off the back of your hand in a moment's notice when you're having a conversation with somebody, so you're fluid about this with your talking points. Put it in a presentation if you have to. Make a video about this. Hey, you're thinking about renting, you're thinking about buying. I would be a person in the buying market right now. Here's the reason why. It's not about the house. It's not about the rate. It's not even about the neighborhood. I don't care about any of that. If I want to grow wealth as an average Jane or Joe American, the best way for me to do this, especially right now when people are putting in their money in gold and walking away from the stock market, which looks like it's looking for a huge correction. Put your money in real estate, because you can't live in your stocks, but you can certainly live in your house, and that's a great way, the best way for you to go ahead and not only raise your family, but accumulate wealth. I hope that makes sense, because it's hugely important. And here's the whole thing, guys. Yes, rates are going to go down. This is, we have all these great rate prognosticators out there like Barry Habib, and they're fantastic at what they do. They really are. My thinking is this. I kind of think Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac know what they're talking about when it comes to rates. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as I've said before, put together are the largest and most profitable company in the history of the world. Also the most philanthropic. And they happen to deal with nothing but housing. And they happen to be tapped in with the government. They happen to be almost wholly owned by the federal government via the Treasury right now, courtesy of the bailout that wasn't a bailout. It was an acquisition, another story for another day, and also being funded by the Treasury. So are they part of the inside team that's going to affect rates in the direction real estate is going to go? And the answer is emphatically yes, more so than any company in the world. So when their economists come out and say, we think by the end of 2026, rates are going to be below 6%, I'm inclined to agree with them, because if anybody has a crystal ball in the world, it's going to be Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the Treasury, and the federal government, right? And the Federal Reserve, right? So if rates are going to go down, that means we're going to see a drop from, to a point and a half, or excuse me, a percentage to a percentage and a half over the next 14 to 18 months. That's a pretty enormous drop. That means we're going to be seeing a quarter drop here on a quarterly basis. Pretty good way of putting it, isn't it? We're going to be seeing a quarter drop in rates on a quarterly basis. So what's going to happen with home values? Again, home values are going to go up. This is going to help new home builders a ton. It's not necessarily going to help buyers, because all that means is they're going to be paying more for homes, because when your buying power goes up, buyers are going to start coming out of the woodwork, driving prices up and tax bases up. Frankly, right now is a better time to buy when you can get the house cheaper, even if your rate's a little bit higher, because you can go ahead and lock in a lower tax rate on that property. But everybody wants to talk about the direction interest rates are going. Yeah, they're going to go down. There you have it. They're going to go down. It's going to help you with your refinances. Loan officers, stay in front of your realtors out there. Do not lose sight of them. And we're going to see a pretty significant drop in interest rates. Mortgage rates are forecast to end 2025-26 at 6.4% and 5.9%, respectively, according to the September 2025 Economic and Housing Outlook from Fannie Mae. The ESR, which is the Economic and Strategic Research Group, the ESR group projects new and existing home sales to total 4.72 million in 2025 and 5.16 million in 2026. Single-family mortgage origination activity is expected to total $1.85 trillion in 2025 and $2.32 trillion in 2026. Such a great number. Doesn't that sound great? If you're thinking about getting out of the business as a loan officer, right now is a great time to do it. Please do it, because if you do it, that just means more loans for us. $2.32 trillion in 2026, and the refinance share is rising from 26% in 2025 to 35% in 2026 on the lower mortgage rate outlook. In other words, yes, it's going to create opportunity for us, but when it comes specifically to realtors and buyers on this thing, I don't necessarily know if lower rates are going to be better for you. Lower rates means higher home prices. Again, I think there's kind of this beautiful twilight period that you could find as a realtor-lender combo when we see these drops in interest rates. It's home values are going to be lagging. So we'll see the drop in rates first, and then over the course of the next couple of months, as buyers start to mobilize and get out of the woodwork, then we're going to see home values go up. But for that 2 or 3 month period between that drop in rates and property values being stagnant before they caught up to the fact that we have lower rates, there's going to be a great little window over there where somebody can go out there and find a decent bargain with a decent rate. What that requires from a lender and realtor team, and yes, you should be teaming with a loan officer, is get all your people pre-qualified, get all of your information on everybody so you are ready to pull the trigger when you see some of these drops. Because again, is this a prognostication? Is this speculation from Fannie and Freddie? It's certainly a speculation. Can anything happen? Of course it can. But the best indicators of rates going up or down are going to be the ones who are on the inside. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty sure Fannie Mae can afford, better suited economists and prognosticators than anybody else in the country can. And of course, they're plugged into the federal government and the market. So they're the ones that I think we're going to want to listen to. So we're going to see a significant rise in production, in opportunity with lower rates over the next 14, 18 months. So make sure that you have your systems in place so we can go ahead and have a great market here. Wall Street falls from all-time highs as Fed chairman warns of unseen risk to the United States economy. Okay, This is a big one. Remember when I pulled up this graph over here and I showed you the gold? Here's where gold is at. Gold is going through the roof. Why is gold going through the roof? Well, one of the reasons could be this right here, is that you have the head of the Fed going out there and saying, I don't know, man, we got a lot of risks to the economy right now, and those risks to the economy are scaring away investors. He hinted at the stock market is overvalued, sending major stock and indices falling. The S&P dropped 0.5% on Tuesday after closing at a record high on Monday. The tech-heavy NASDAQ composite, the NASDAQ never falls. It fell 1%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average pulled back 0.2%. And what he's suggesting is we're going to continue to see bigger problems with the economy and bigger problems with the stock market. That's why we've already seen a cut, and where there's huge concerns about inflation here as well. We've already seen a cut, but the Fed has already said that we'll probably see 2 more cuts. And though the Fed cutting doesn't necessarily have anything to do with mortgage interest rates, they do tend to track each other to a certain extent. And if the Fed comes back with some form of quantitative easing, then of course that has a direct impact on mortgage interest rates. But yeah, the reason why we're seeing concerns with the stock market, people investing in gold, is there's concerns about what's taking place, and a lot of it has to do with the problems that we have in housing. And finally, here's the last point that I wanted to share with you guys here. Mortgage rates, once again, just supporting my my assertion here, move closer to 6%, and the forecast is getting sunnier. In short, rates are probably going to go down. Listen, we're going to see rates jumping every now and then. They're going to go up, but we're going to see a steady trend of rates going down. That at least is my belief based on what Fannie and Freddie have to say. So do yourself a favor right now. Call your best opportunities. Call those real estate agents up. Tell them to call their best opportunities and tell them that they can double or triple their real estate holdings. Go to the markets that we talked about. Explain why buying a house to your first-time home buyers, even your move-up or your move-down buyers, is a good time right now. You can lock in that lower tax base today than you will when rates go down, which inevitably is going to happen. It's a better time to buy today and tomorrow. And of course, buying is always a good idea because the difference between homeowners and home not owners is 400,000 and 10,000. Which bucket do you want to be in? Hey, listen, guys. My name is Brian Stevens. This is Mortgage Shots in the National Real Estate Post. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I look forward to talking to you guys again. If you have any questions, put them in the comments down below, and make sure you subscribe, like, share, and all that good stuff because it helps me bring great content to you. With that said, my friends, I will catch you mañana. Au revoir.